the Lord's like, I can't even see my finger, man. I ain't got one. Yeah.
You are listening to Saints in the South.
All right, welcome to another episode of Saints in the South, number 44.
44.
That's right. Hey, thank y'all for listening, and we hope that you will keep on subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe, and please share this with your friends and family. We appreciate the support. As always, appreciate the comments, the feedback. We really have a good time doing this, and we appreciate y'all's participation.
Thank you. Go and subscribe. That was the next thing Nephi said. He said, I will go do. Then he said, I will go and subscribe. He didn't know what subscribe meant at the time, but he was a prophet.
That's right, exactly.
To him. Probably scribe in the plates, right?
Yeah,
subscribing. Go and scribe. That's right.
Go and scribe.
Well, hey, today we jump back in time. We have
way back.
That's right. So we have the Book of Ether that we're going to start covering, and the title for today is "Rend That Veil of Unbelief." And so Mormon has died. His son Moroni has the plates now, and as he talks about here, in this first little bit, how he has the plates of ether, and he doesn't have a whole lot of room, is what it sounds like, as far as being able to write a lot of things down. He's by himself, so he's not able to go to the blacksmith over there and pick up some more gold plates, right?
Right.
And everything. So
he doesn't have time to make them. I think he goes on to say he can't even really build a fire anywhere because it'll show where he's at. They'll see it. So.
That's exactly right.
He's really in hiding here. Just to give a little background on the chronological, obviously the Book of Mormon is not in chronological order because, like you said, this is the Book of Ether comes towards the end when, in fact, it happened. Well, I'll just say it says if there were, if it was in chronological order, the Book of the Ether would be first. It says the Jaredite records begin approximately 2,200 years BC. So 2,200 years BC. First Nephi begins 600 BC. So the Book of Ether covers only over 1,700 years of history from 22 BC down to the time of Coriantumr, which we'll read about later. We don't know exactly when Coriantumr lived, but it was somewhere between 500 and 250 BC. The rest of the Book of Mormon covers First Nephi to Moroni. It covers about 1,000 years of history. So the Book of Ether covers 1,700 years of history in just a few chapters. So like you said, Moroni didn't have a whole lot of room, and he starts condensing a lot of this. But I think apparently he got a lot of the meat of it because it seems pretty complete to me. The way he did it. So
right.
But and it's around 400 AD right now for Moroni.
Right. And we know too, he only had 24 plates. I'm sure there was far more that was to be recorded. But he only had 24 plates of it. And it covers 1,700 years, and then the whole rest of the Book of Mormon only covers about 1,000 years. Yeah. So it's crazy. But cool, 2,200 years before Christ. This is a long time back. Yeah. So
that's some cool facts right there.
Yeah, man. And like Andrew said, it is a mini Book of Mormon. It's another witness of Jesus Christ. You got to think it was a book found within a book. It's kind of a cool little thing there, So
right, for sure.
Yeah, it's got a lot of the same lessons, the ups and downs, the pride cycle. There's apostasy. There's
the challenges that they're presented with. For example, you've got Nephi breaking his bow. What is he going to do? He's got to go to the Lord, figure it out. And same thing with the brother of Jared.
It goes to show that it truly is. Moroni just got through saying that the Lord is same yesterday, today, and forever, and he is. God is that way. He uses the same types of patterns and same things to teach us all things. It's like if I had 3 or 4 sons, I would want to teach them somewhat similar things if that's what I wanted them to know. And it may be similar situations. You might go, well, he made that up because it's sort of similar to when Nephi broke his bow. So this sounds like one of those stories. well, God is going to teach children the same ways. It may not be the exact same scenario, but it's going to be pretty similar because it's the same principles and the same things that he wants them to know. So it makes sense. I mean,
So the Jaredites leave Babel, a wicked community.
This was all the way back to the Tower of Babel, right? This was after the flood. Yeah, the people start becoming wicked again, and so they're trying to build a tower to heaven. They're trying to get to heaven. And anyway,
but the similarities, the similarities, they leave Babel, a wicked community. They cross the wilderness. They build a barge. They go to the promised land.
Yeah.
Like I said, you go forward to Nephi. Lehi did the same thing. Left a wicked community. Went through the wilderness, built a boat, went to the promised land. And then if we compare that and liken it to us today, and today here in Georgia or wherever we're at, sometimes we
leave the country because of what's going on. I'm just kidding.
Sometimes we're going through the wilderness,
yeah.
Their own obstacles, and we too are trying to arrive to the promised land. So there's a lot of just like Marcus, you said earlier about the kids, there might be different scenarios, but the principle, the same.
And they might be very similar scenarios, but it's, I mean, we think of Paul and we think of Alma the Younger. I mean, sort of same type story. I mean, a little different, obviously two different people, but it's because the Lord teaches in very similar ways and we're all his children and, so.
Yeah. Something that jumped out to me in this first chapter. So remember kind of the things that we've already mentioned is that one, Moroni's on the run, right? So he doesn't have a whole lot of time to sit and do these things. Number two, he doesn't have a whole lot of room left on the plates. However, and he also says that he leaves out some things, right? The creation and the beginning of time with Adam and so forth. Yep. But what he does not leave out is the genealogy.
Yeah, 30 names.
That's right, which is significant when you think about family history and genealogy and how important that was for him to record that.
That's a good point.
So,
yeah,
that's
he
a really
definitely
good point. That does show that when you take it into that context, it really does show the importance of genealogy, and apparently it was super important to the Jaredites as well. I mean, to record this was sort of something that was taken over. This was done in that ancient Hebrew times. If you go back to the Book of Moses, the Book of
Genesis,
like Genesis and all that, you start to see that you see those patterns in the Old Testament. They'll list 30 names of so and so begat so and so begat so and so. And so it's sort of if you think about it, 2,200 years before Christ, this was sort of the way it was and the way they would do things and record things. You don't notice it much in the rest of the Book of Mormon because this was a different, if you did, it was early on, maybe with Limhi or something, but I don't think they mentioned a whole lot they mentioned a little bit about genealogy, but they didn't get in there with that long list. There might be one or two spots there. I'm trying to remember what other parts of the Book of Mormon, but what I'm getting to is back then it was sort of a common thing and it was just sort of the thing to do to list your genealogy. And so that's why you see it there like that. It's pretty long, but apparently Moroni understood the significance of it. He needed that in there because he put it in there, man. And like you said, he didn't have a lot of room,
Right.
But it's very interesting that you say that. It does show the importance of genealogy. Andrew, didn't you have something on that on the genealogy about the children of? I seen on that note paper you had about how all of them didn't want to be. None of them wanted to be kings or something, right? Of all the
that's later on. Yeah, that's that's in chapter 6 and 7.
That's right.
But going off the genealogy and just family. We start to recognize there in chapter 1 how the brother of Jared, how Jared
himself. I always get that's the way I do it too. It's like Jared, we're talking about Jared. Wait a minute, it's brother Jared. We'll find out his real name here in a minute.
How Jared looks up to his brother. How he keeps on asking him to pray. There's 3 times he goes to him, his brother. So just obviously some family love, some respect, and
there's some respect there,
for there. So he asks his brother 3 times because again, like we said earlier, this is happening at the Tower of Babel, the Book of Genesis, and what happens there? They building a big tower trying to get to heaven, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, but Jared, not Jared, keeps all the, anyway, again, he must have really loved his brother because he asked him 3 times. And
Yep.
you start to think, why couldn't Jared pray,
Yeah.
But there must have been some respect, or he must have been the spiritual leader or something,
Yeah. Probably.
The patriarch maybe on the side.
Yeah. There's no telling. Yeah.
But it was a reminder to me that it's okay to go ask a family member or go ask someone that you respect for some guidance, for some counsel.
It's okay to throw out them prayer requests on Facebook.
Yeah. Yeah, we need them prayers. Bring them in. But I do like that, going off the prayers there in verse 34, Ether 1. It says, crying to the Lord. This is what he's saying, crying to the Lord that he will not confound us, that we may not understand our words. So we remember the Tower of Babel, the whole situation there from
language,
Babel history. The language was confounded. The Lord separated the people, and all these different languages and things and so of course that was their prayer, like, don't let our family get split up, don't let us get scattered out, keep us together, keep our language so we can understand each other, and keep us together. And that was what the prayer was. I like the way, if you notice the order of requests, at first it's do not confound us, he says that. Then he says, do not confound our friends.
Yeah.
And finally, he says, lead us to a new land. And it reminds us of Enos, who prayed for his friends, then his enemies, and then the preservation of the records. This is sort of like Jared's doing the same thing. This is one of them little scenarios where it's like a similar thing. But like I say, the gospel is very similar. It is the same for everybody. Everybody should be praying in that way. You pray for our friends, we pray for our enemies. We should be doing that now for our country. But anyway, so that's what's going on here. I thought it was pretty cool.
And think about the power of prayer. And this is, and me personally, one of my many faults is I forget about the power of prayer. Mm-hmm. And in verse 43, he's talking about, and there will I bless thee and thy seed and raise up unto me. And it goes on. And it says at the end, and thus I will do unto thee because this long time you have cried unto me.
Yep.
Because you have exercised the faith, because you have put your reliance upon me, the Lord speaking. And we saw it back when Christ visited the Nephites there. He changed his agenda, right? So prayer really can play a significant part in our life, as far as what things that are going on, and the Lord truly will bless us based off our prayer, based off our faith.
Was that verse 43?
Yeah. Verse 43, chapter 1.
Yeah, I got right there how this long time, persistent with prayer. Be persistent. We can go back to that New Testament parable or story there in Luke 11:5-8. The friend at midnight, how he goes and asks for bread or food or whatever, and he keeps on. And what's that word? Importunity? How you say impor?
Yeah.
Importunity.
Talking about where you continuously.
Yeah, he was persistent.
Yeah.
Persistent, and we could do that with prayer, persistent. Thomas Paine said, what we obtain too cheaply, we esteem too lightly. It is dearness only that gives everything its value. Heaven knows how to put a proper price upon its goods. So sometimes in this, persistent, long time, be persistent with our prayers.
I like it.
So easy.
Yeah, I mean, with that, what you're saying, it says, the prophet Joseph Smith said this. He said, God is not a respecter of persons. We all have the same privilege. Come to God, weary him until he blesses you, and we are entitled to the same blessings. And so, we can do that. We can, it doesn't mean that he has to, but what it is if it's something righteous, it's something good, it's something that's going to help us, it's going to help our family, friends, whatever. The Lord will answer that in whatever way he sees fit. He's not going to ignore it, I guess is what it gets down to. And that's basically what he tells the brother Jared. He said, I'll do this because you've really cried to me, prayed into me, and really, I can tell that you really want this, which we find out about Jared, that there's a lot of faith in the brother of Jared. This dude is full of faith.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But having said that, we'll also see that there's also faults in the brother of Jared. To say that he's full of faith doesn't mean he's perfect. We'll see that here in just a second, but some with little things, but it's just very interesting that, with the power of prayer, we don't think about the power of prayer. It is real. It is a real thing. I mean, God is literally there. He literally listens to our prayers. He's all powerful, and he hears exactly what Jackson says or Andrew says or Marcus says or whatever. He hears those things, and it's when you step back and really think about it, it's pretty amazing thing,
There's a lot of prayer replacement words, cry, inquire, talk, call upon, sing, praises, thank. There's a lot of replacement words, praying,
So in chapter 2, they begin their journey, right? They start heading that way, traveling through the wilderness, and they come up to a body of water, which is not the great waters they end up having to cross, but they have to cross a small section there. Yep. And I wish I'd have been prepared, but for what about the geography, trying to remember what sea that is. I think it's most likely the one that they crossed, Mediterranean Sea or something.
The Nile, was it the Nile River? No,
it was a sea. It says it was a sea.
Oh, okay.
That's what they said.
I know there was a lot of ups down. They went northward, then they went.
This was before they went that. Okay. This is when they just went. They had to cross over. It says
verse 6.
Yeah.
And it came to pass that they did travel in the wilderness and did build barges in which they did cross many waters, being directed continually by the hand of the Lord. And then it goes on, and then they stop and then travel in more wilderness and so forth, and then come to the end up to the large waters.
Okay. Yeah, to the large waters. They finally, and the large waters is the one where the whole
build
story
the dishes, that's right.
Yeah. So let's get down to the name. All right, brother of Jared. We call him the brother of Jared.
Ooh.
Spoiler alert. So I'll read the story. I think maybe you guys have probably heard the story too about I can't make it. I'm looking at his name. Reynolds Cahoon. Have you heard the story? I'm assuming you have.
Yeah.
So anyway, for our listeners and watchers, Elder George Reynolds. Okay, this was of the 70. This was in 18. Elder George Reynolds lived from 1842 to 1909. Anyway, he was of the 70. He related the following account, which indicates that the brother of Jared's name was, and that it was revealed to the prophet Joseph Smith. He says this. He says, while residing in Kirtland, Elder Reynolds Cahoon had a son born to him. One day, when President Joseph Smith was passing his door, he called the prophet in and asked him to bless and name the baby. Joseph did so and gave the boy the name Mahonri Moriankamer. When he had finished the blessing, he laid the child on the bed, and turning to Elder Calhoun, he said, the name I have given your son is the name of the brother of Jared. The Lord has just shown or revealed it to me. Elder William F. Cahoon, who was standing near, heard the prophet make this statement to his father, and this was the first time the name of the brother of Jared was known in the church in this dispensation. So the name of the brother of Jared is Mahonri Moriankamer. So Mahonri was his name. So if you go to verse 13 in chapter 2, it actually tells us what his name is. I don't think people know that. I mean,
chapter
I know y'all
13 verse 2.
I know I'm sorry, backwards, dyslexic. I'm not, but hopefully I'm not. Elder Ether 2 verse 13. That's what we were talking about. They name the place when they get there. What do they name the place? This first little place that they got to before they crossed the great waters. Moriankamer. And if we go to that footnote, if you click on it, for those that have the digital, if you click on that Moriankamer, the little footnote, if you look there in Alma 8:7, it says this: Now it was the custom of the people of Nephi to call their lands and their cities and their villages, yea, even their small villages, after the name of him who first possessed them. And thus it was with the land of Ammoniah. So the land of Ammoniah that we talked about before was named after a man named Ammon or Ammoniah or whatever, at the time, So here is Moriankimer. That's the name of this city. They probably named it after their patriarch or their spiritual leader, when they first got there. And so there you go. I mean, that's part of it. We didn't have the Mahonri part, but we got that later. But so it makes sense, that would be something. I thought that was just a really cool.
That is cool. Super cool. The very beginning of the Book of Mormon, what did Lehi do? They named a valley in the river after Laman and Lemuel. That's
what they do. When they come up on a new thing, land, they usually name it after the person that was.
That's right. They also name them after great hunters. Nimrod. That's true. Right here, old Nimrod, man. He was a great hunter.
Nimrod, I'm telling you. Awesome. Hey. He wrestled a bear at age 6.
And you know what? Here in the South, sometimes you go down these dirt roads, and sometimes whoever created that dirt road first puts their name on it.
That's right.
Oh, Road Grader Joe. This is Road Grader Joe Road. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I mean, it's true.
That's
I
cool.
mean, so anyway, there it is. I mean, so his name was actually there the whole time.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's cool to.
So,
but I'll probably rather say Brother Jared. That's a little easier, right?
I just say Mahonri, man. Mahonri is awesome.
Over on
first name basis,
Yeah. What's up, Mahonri?
I think it was Emery that was really wanted to name his son Mahonri Moriankimer.
Yeah, Mahonri, man.
No,
he did. I remember him saying that.
Yeah, I do remember that.
What's up, Mahonri? Get over here, Mahonri. It's just hard to say. Anyway.
Instead, he named him Jackson.
Right.
That was the second choice.
Yeah, that's the second choice.
Not after me. They made that loud and clear in Sacrament. On the day.
Had nothing to do with you.
That's right.
All right, so here they are. They're at this first little spot here. All of a sudden, what happens? We talk about that thing like I talked about before. Jared was not a perfect, Mahonri was not a perfect, the brother Jared was not a perfect person. So what happened in verse 14 there in chapter 2? I think it's kind of crazy. It says, and it came to pass at the end of the 4 years that the Lord came again unto the brother of Jared and stood in a cloud and talked with him. Now, we know Moroni doesn't have a lot of space on these plates, but he does put down, and for the space of 3 hours, did the Lord talk with the brother of Jared and chastened him because he remembered not to call upon the name of the Lord. It's so interesting to me in the end of chapter 1, and thus I will do unto thee because this long time ye have cried unto me. So praying like crazy.
Right.
All of a sudden, you're not praying to me anymore. What's up? And for 3 hours, which I would tend to say, I don't think the Lord was standing there over him and just chastising him for 3 hours. I think it was more of a conversation. I'm sure the chastisement was in there. I don't think it was a 3 hour chastisement, though. I think they had a long conversation. I think they just chatted with each other. Had a conversation with each other. I think that's what it was. But that's crazy, man. I mean,
and I'm going to go out.
He may have saw the finger of the Lord then when it was like this, and he was pointing at him. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
We've got a in our family. We've got a joke about dad. You always got stories about your parents growing up and everything. Yeah. But it was when dad was serious and he's bringing home a point and he's wanting to make sure you're not going to forget that. The finger would come down and he on the table like every boom. I mean, and like the table would just rock, just boom, boom.
That was it.
Break that finger, man.
Strongest finger in the world.
But I think right here again, and we're all about speculating, right? Because this ain't.
Yeah, I mean,
so
this ain't your granny's Sunday school class.
So I think that they show up, and this land is probably pretty nice, pretty comfortable, right? They've got it to themselves. They can all understand each other, and they just kind of forget a little bit, that what they're really supposed to be doing and supposed to be going, and they say that like this is the place, we're good to go now.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then this is for, what was it, 4 years?
4 years, yeah.
They just got idle, right? They're just very idle, probably. I mean,
got comfortable. I guess they're just comfortable. They're like, hey, we're safe. We're all together. We still speak the Adamic language. We're good. I mean, that's what they believe, that they still had the language of Adam because their language wasn't taken from them, which was why I think they said that it was so well that they wrote so much with so little because their language was so perfect. That's what has been said.
Hold on, I've got a thought on it. Who says that?
Actually, I had it here, and I wasn't going to say much about it, but we just mentioned the language there again.
No, but that's interesting because the other languages were founded.
Joseph Fielding Smith taught that the Jaredites likely spoke in the language of Adam. It is stated in the Book of Ether that Jared and his brother made the request of the Lord that their language not be changed. Their request was granted, and they carried with them the speech of their fathers, the Adamic language, which was so powerful, even in its written form, that the things Moroni wrote were mighty, even into the overpowering of man to read them. That was the kind of language Adam had, and this was the language which also Enoch was able to accomplish his mighty work. It was with the Adamic language. It was such a perfect language. I think it even talks about it later on. So I think Moroni says something about it.
That's what I was going to bring up. But I don't know if I wonder if it's the same language. So it's in chapter 3, verse 22, and he's speaking to Moroni, and it says, "And behold, when ye shall come unto me, ye shall write them and shall seal them up, that no one can interpret them, for ye shall write them in a language that they cannot be read." And so I got it here to my notes. Is that the Adamic language? I wonder, because there obviously people could read, and if they were speaking that language, then it could obviously be written or interpreted and so forth. So
yeah, true. I don't know. I'm not sure about that. Yeah, I'm not sure. But
if Joseph Fielding Smith said it, then
that's what he said.
I'll let him have it.
That would have been the
let him take the credit.
That's right.
Yes, right. But like I say, I think Moroni said something about what he read and then the way they wrote and the language they wrote in. It was harder for them to write things. But for this, Jared, you got to think he's got 23 plates here, and it's got so much stuff. You think of all the plates of the Book of Mormon that but you got so much stuff in these 23 plates because they were able to write so much, so powerfully with so little. The way they wrote it. I don't know. I don't know if that's if that's the case. We might have to research into that a little more. But that was the words of Joseph Fielding Smith. So
yeah,
and it makes sense if it was at the Tower of Babel and the Lord didn't change their language. I guess he could have said, "Okay, well, I'll just give you all the same language. Here it is. This is the new language." Could have been that, I guess.
But it wasn't confounded though.
It says it wasn't confounded,
interesting though.
He could have took their whole group though and put them over here and said, "Okay, boom, here's Portuguese." I mean, I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't have been Portuguese, but you know what I'm saying.
That's right.
If he wanted to, but
here's Southern.
Yeah, you're Southern.
Yeah,
that's our language. That's where we're Southern.
Did they arrive at Georgia? Did they arrive like a?
Come on now.
I mean, it's coast.
Fake news.
Fake news.
Fake news.
No, we don't know.
So
all that type of. That's why I wasn't even going to mention it because I knew Andrew would talk about Jordan. It's kind of I don't want to call it speculation. I mean, if a prophet said it, maybe it is true, but you know what I'm saying. It's likely. It's highly likely that was the Adamic language, but it don't really matter. I mean, honestly,
right.
But it's fun to talk about and
it's
ponder
cool to think about.
And get you thinking.
Yeah.
I like there in verse 16. The Lord said, "Go to work and build."
Yeah,
that's just go to work and build. We can
get to work. Don't be idle. Don't laze around on the beach all day.
Yeah, and we could go off of Joseph Smith's example how he was looking for a church, right? And he went to other churches, went to and he read scriptures and was motivated by one and went to the Sacred Grove and prayed, and the rest is history. But just go to work and build.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. The Lord wants them out of there. He wants them to the promised land. He wants to, not just that land where they are there. He's talking about a whole new land. You should cross the great waters. And so they got to have some ships, right? They got to have some ways to get there. I was going to say better than what they already have. Obviously, they had some barges that they built, but obviously these weren't the kind they needed.
No, yeah, they were going to be in some
turbulent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Up on them waters and everything. And just think about the ingenuity they had to use back then to make these things so tight, top and bottom, you know, and I like how
in 17 tied into like a dish.
Tied into like a dish, that's right.
Yeah, it said it said a few times, didn't it?
These things, they were watertight. That was the way that John, by the way, had said that was the way that they said watertight, basically. They wanted to make sure people knew water could not get into these things.
Yeah.
So, which also would mean that air cannot get into these things, pretty much. So there had to be a way. Well, he had some problem. What were the three problems? There was no
light,
no light, no air,
and no way to steer. Yeah, they didn't have a way to steer it. So the way that I understand it, and I know there's been, if you go to YouTube, man, there's people that have made like models and stuff about how these ships are made. But the way that I understand it, if you read it, it's talking about there's a hole that you can open in the top and a hole in the bottom. And you think, well, that don't make no sense. That thing's gonna sink. You got a hole in the bottom. But it's like a cork. It's like you can unplug the top with the one in the bottom closed. It won't sink. You can also plug the top and unplug the bottom, even where the water is, and it won't come up inside because of the air pressure.
Because the air pressure, right.
It makes sense. And you think, well, what would they need a hole in the bottom for, man? You could fish. You could use the bathroom. I mean, you got to think. I mean, you had to do that kind of stuff. So it's pretty ingenious, man. I mean, it's obviously the Lord, you know, and it's like a submarine almost because it can go under the water. And I mean, it's pretty cool, man.
So that's what I thought. And then I saw someone else say, no, horizontally, like a basketball court, top and bottom of a court. It could actually just be on the top, one on one end, one on the other. It could be.
I don't like that one.
Do what?
I don't like that theory.
I like yours better. I know, seriously.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, but
that's not my theory, by the way. I did not. I'm not that smart.
But what you said is what I want to believe and what I grew up thinking. But then as I was researching this, someone said, well, it could have been like a basketball court, the top or the bottom.
How'd they use the bathroom?
Do what?
Have to hang it out over the edge at the top? I mean, what the heck?
No, so for the record,
but if you was to open up one side and the other side, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be. I don't know.
And like you mentioned YouTube, I was looking and someone said, well, it could have been horizontal, you know.
It could have been. It really
top and bottom.
I've never pictured that way. I've always pictured literally top
because it
and
makes
bottom.
sense. I mean, like you could put this bottle underwater with the opening this way and it won't fill with water if you get it under there right. You know, the pressure inside won't allow it. And so I don't know. And then they could fish. They would never have to leave the boat. They would never have, because it wasn't a boat. The way I understand it, really wasn't a boat. I'm sure they could maybe go out on top if the waters were calm and stand on the top of it. But it was more like a.
How'd they get their vitamin D?
Yeah. Oh, they didn't need it.
Well, they had
that light and those stones.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Your sunlight.
That's right.
SON.
It was natural, right? It was naturally
natural sunlight.
It wasn't no artificial batteries lighting it up.
No, this was SON light, sunlight.
So they actually had. Where's it talking about where they bring on like animals and things like that?
Dude,
I know that's not
it's Noah. What's up? No, I'm just kidding. No, like with the bees and stuff. They
Deseret.
Because it sounds like they had an aquarium on there, man. They brought fish on there. I'm serious.
There was 8 boats.
I guess they could have put a net down underneath and held them in there.
So there was 8 boats. We have to remember that. There's 8 barges, not boat. They call them barges.
There's 8,
right? 8 barges. So, her brother Jared had one to himself, and then others not just
his own. And also, how many people did each one hold?
I don't know. There were 16 stones.
They were pretty big. You know, they said they had the length of a tree.
22 people.
So there was at
least 616.
There was probably somewhere around 88 people or so.
Yeah, so,
I guess if you go.
So 616 says, and the friends of Jared and his brother were in number about 22 souls.
Oh, there was 22 people total.
Yeah, 22 people total.
Okay, so I was thinking of each one had 22 people in it. No, that's so
basically about 7.2 people. So,
and they said they already begat sons and
basically
daughters
about like before they so they could have been okay.
But it says here in Ether 6:16 there was 22 souls.
Where's the animals at? I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I think it's in 4. Is it in 4 or 3?
And there were 344 days out there. But that's in verse 6 and all. I mean chapter 6.
Oh no, it's in 2. It's in
talking about the animals.
Well, they carried that stuff with them to that land whenever they first left. They carried bees and
that's chapter 2.
That's in chapter 2.
Okay, so they had they had the aquarium on the boat on the regular bars.
Maybe, maybe.
Anyway,
I know
we can move on. But they had to actually build these ships, man. They knew the thing was a little bit different with Nephi compared to the brother of Jared is that Nephi really didn't know how to build a ship too much. Jared kind of did know how to build a ship, obviously, or the brother of Jared, because they had already made some barges before they ever started building these other barges. But these were like submersible almost barges, like ones that could go underwater, out of water, very different probably for their time.
Yeah, these are barges 2.0. I mean,
these are the update. These are the new year, the new models that came out.
That's right. Yeah. Exactly.
It said, for the mountain waves shall dash upon you. So they were definitely in verse 24 in the mountain of waves. So definitely it was.
Didn't it say something about whales? Didn't it say something about whales like hitting or
So chapter 6 says a lot. So we might
maybe I'm going into chapter 6. I might be going ahead
chapter
myself.
6 tells you how many days they're out.
So as we move into chapter 6, one last distinction or something that I want to bring up is that with Nephi building his ships and the brother of Jared building the barges, both of them point out that they were after the manner of the Lord's instructions. Right. So they were not after the manner of men, but they followed, they relied upon the Lord, followed the instructions to build them so that they would be successful, be strong.
Yeah. So here's a cool thought. Do you think that one day we'll be able to like watch these things like as they really happen, like almost to watch like old home movies in the celestial kingdom? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like actually
rewind
see
it and stuff.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah.
I hope we can.
Especially if we can do it in slow motion.
Yeah, I mean, you want to do it in slow motion for some of it. You know, you want to see the
battles, man. You got to have the battles in slow motion. Some of the battles in slow motion.
I'm telling you, dude. I'm thinking it's going to be pretty cool, and the Lord's going to be like, read your scriptures. I'm talking about. I want to see it. I want to see it on video. 3. Yeah, I want to see it on DVD. But it is chapter 6 that talks about all the animals they carry with them, the bees. The whale could not mar them when they were in the ocean. You know, stuff like that.
Right,
so yeah,
we can talk more about that next week. Yeah. This is Ether 1 through 5, but that's chapter 6 got a lot of good info.
All right, let's get to the finger.
So there's 16 barges there in chapter 3.
Right.
I mean, not 8 barges in it. 16 stones. Have we skipped the stones, or is that where the finger
there.
first?
It's sort of all in there. I mean, so the Lord takes care of the air issue. I mean, he tells Jared to build it this way, however it was, with the top and bottom or, the holes. And then, of course, the steering was going to be taken care of with the winds. The Lord was going to blow them towards where they needed to be. But the last thing was the light. And so the Lord, at this point, in a nutshell, basically says, okay, what would you have me do? In other words, he doesn't really just take this on himself. As I feel like I do a lot of times as a parent, I have to catch myself and go, I need to teach these kids something. They need to learn something. And so it's kind of like the Lord saying, okay, what would you have me do? What do you think we should do? It's like, what's your opinion? What do you think?
Use your brain a little bit. Let's go.
Yeah. It's like, I gave you a brain. Exactly. I mean, honestly,
so what are your thoughts?
You have a brain, what do you think? You build ships and things. So I think you're pretty smart. You're intelligent. So what do you think we should do? And of course, I love that, it shows, but it also kind of shows that, I don't know what the word is, like Nephi was when he said, I'll go where do I go to make tools? It's like, I'm ready. And so Jared does go off and starts molting these little stones when you melt down rock and make them clear, almost like quartz, I would think, or glass, little stones. And he has those because he knows in his mind, he has so much faith. He just knows that I know what I'm going to do with these. I'm going to take them to the Lord, let him touch them, and they'll light up. And I know they will. I know he can do that. It's just crazy, you get used to thinking about this. But you have to say he has had a 3-hour conversation with him. Maybe not face-to-face at the time, but I don't know how that encounter happened back when he was getting chastised a little bit. But he does know the Lord pretty well, it sounds like, already. I mean, even though he was very spiritual, and I think he knows the Lord really well. So he had a lot of faith in the Lord. So here he is. He's going to go and make these little stones, and he needs light, and this is his idea. Because he knows he can't have fire. The Lord tells him you can't have fire in there, so don't try fire. I mean, that's out of the question. And you got to think, man, this is way back. This is 2,200 years before Christ was born. This isn't 1978 where you can go, well, I mean, I'll get some old, whatever light bulbs.
AA batteries and
AA batteries. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, nah, dude, the only light they had back then was fire, wasn't it? Or daytime. I mean, that's it. You was in a cave. You had to have a light. I mean, so, man, fire's out of the question. I would probably just be sitting there, Lord, I have no idea. Lightning? I mean, is it lightning? Are you going to make lightning hit us? I mean, how do you do that? And so, but here's Jared, man, brother Jared. He's pretty, he has a little ingenious idea here. Basically creates the first light. I mean, forget Thomas Edison, man. Mahonri. Made the first light bulb.
So there's so what happened? So he actually sees the pre-mortal Jesus.
Yes, right. And that's something actually that a lot of people confuse. They think, how did the Lord have a body? He didn't have a body of flesh and bone at this point, but it was in the form that he has. I mean, and that's a whole nother discussion. He looks like himself. Our spirits look like our bodies, vice versa. And but he had not been born yet. Christ had not been born yet, but he still looked like he would look as a mortal. And so that's why Jared says, I didn't know you had flesh and bone like I do, and in reality, he didn't at the time, but he would. I mean, what he saw.
I like in that scripture there where he talks about the faith of the brother of Jared was so strong that the Lord could not withhold himself from the brother of Jared.
So I've got the Jeffrey R. Holland thing, man. I mean, come on, you Jeffrey R. Holland something up. He gave 6 possible explanations. We're talking about verse 15. He says, this is what the Lord told brother of Jared. He said, and never have I showed myself unto man whom I have created. For never has man believed in me as thou hast. So you want to go, wait a minute. What about, I mean, this was after Noah. This was after Adam. This was after Enoch. And so it's like, what's up? You're saying you've never showed yourself? These people said they saw you. You know what I'm saying? And so you kind of want to say, what does he mean by that? What's going on? But Jeffrey Holland gave 6 possible explanations. You can look those up. I'm not going to give all 6, but the one that really stood out to me, and he actually said the one that was probably the most persuasive one is this. He says this. He says, Christ was saying to the brother of Jared, never have I showed myself unto man in this manner, without my volition, driven solely by the faith of the beholder. As a rule, prophets are invited into the presence of the Lord. They are bidden to enter his presence by him and only his sanction. The brother of Jared, on the other hand, seems to have thrust himself through the veil, not as an unwelcome guest, but perhaps technically as an uninvited one. Said Jehovah, never has man come before me with such exceeding faith as thou hast, for were it not so, ye could not have seen my finger. Never has man believed in me as thou hast. Obviously, the Lord himself was linking unprecedented faith with this unprecedented vision. If the vision itself was not unique, then it had to be the faith and how the vision was obtained that was so unparalleled. The only way that faith could be so remarkable was its ability to take the prophet uninvited where others had been able to go only with God's bidding. So it's just like you said, Jackson, he sort of thrust himself into the presence of the Lord, when in reality, most of the time it was the opposite. The Lord allowed that to happen, and his faith was so strong. Basically, the Lord could not withhold himself from him. He just saw him, and that's why the Lord was a little bit taken back. He was kind of like, you can see my finger? He's like, what else can you see? Like, what's up? You know what I'm saying? And it's like, what's up? You know, I mean, what's going on, man? But
That's
and he
faith,
does
man.
he does explain
the Lord's like, I can't even see my finger, man. I ain't got one.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. The Lord even tells him in 16, he said, behold, this body, which now behold is the body of my spirit. In other words, you're not seeing flesh and bone. So he does correct him. It's not flesh and bone, but it will be, you know, and it will forever be after he's, you know, resurrected. But, you know, how cool is that, man? You talking about faith? We talked about Nephi and his faith. I mean, I don't want to compare faiths because I don't think we should, but this is another level of faith here, man. This is like, I'm going to see you. And Jesus is like, no, you ain't. Not right now. I don't need you to. We already had a 3-hour conversation before you didn't see me. Probably, possibly, because he's saying I've never showed myself. So all of a sudden, I can see you. And the Lord's like, what? How do you see me? I didn't even get dressed for this. I didn't have on my church clothes. No, but you know what I'm saying. Pretty cool stuff, man. You know, that's some unprecedented faith. Even as Jeffrey Arlen said, it's almost more impressive the amount of faith than the actual vision itself. I mean, to know that how it happened was almost more incredible than what happened. And anyway, so the whole point is, of course, he touched the stones and lit them up, and they stay lit the whole journey.
2 stones per barge.
Yep. I'm assuming like at night when they wanted to sleep, they just covered them up, I guess. But that had to be something amazing, though. This was way back, like we say, 2,000 years before Christ, way back, ancient times.
1,700 years before.
I mean, you're looking at a light bulb back.
I think they were.
That had to be very.
I think they were pull string, you know, just like when you kind of pull the.
Yeah, because it was older. So it wouldn't be like that. It wasn't the clap off. Could have been. I don't know. But very cool, man. Very interesting. I wonder if the Lord wasn't pretty impressed with him, thinking, okay, that's a pretty good idea, dude. I mean, that's pretty awesome.
So that experience, he goes from touching the stones, right, and him seeing it, and then it ends up going into a full ministering spiritual experience where he ends up, you know, seeing a lot more. Yeah. And in verse 21 and 22, I'll just mention 22. I think where we said it earlier. I think I may need to correct myself. I thought I was talking about. I mentioned earlier about how he's speaking to Moroni. It's not Moroni about writing it down, but he's actually speaking to the brother Jared.
Yeah.
It's about not writing those things down or not revealing it unto people. Right. Yeah. In verse 21. And it came to pass that the Lord said unto the brother Jared, behold, thou shalt not suffer these things which ye have seen and heard to go forth into the world until the time come that I shall glorify my name in the flesh.
That's right.
Wherefore ye shall treasure up these things which ye have seen and heard and show it unto no man. So what I want to compare that to is, I know there's been, you know, and all of us may be in that boat, but people where you have certain spiritual experiences in your life, something that you actually never share with anyone, which is you know similar here. So
yeah, I tell you this, for me, this go around, I do feel like the Book of Ether is underrated in my life. What I mean is, I always think of all these other books, and then wham, there's the Book of Ether, and there's much
ether. There's
so much beauty. Again, ups and downs, a lot of hidden gems that I feel like, and hidden stones, right?
That's right.
That's found in the Book of Ether. Easy to read, very very cool, just things to ponder about the barges and the faith of the brother of Jared. So again, for me, I'm glad that I had the opportunity to study more. And what was interesting, I think I shared this with y'all last night. I was going through my old papers from my mission.
Yeah.
And on my mission, November 4th of 2002, I'm a visual person, so I always like to draw and kind of write things during my studies. And I found it said November 4th, and yesterday, as I was studying, it was November 4th.
November 4th. That's crazy.
It's just pretty cool. 18 years later, and how note taking's changed, how maybe my studying has changed, and how, you know, but the end result hopefully should be the same as gaining a testimony of Jesus Christ. So anyway, again, Book of Ether is super cool book.
Yeah.
Again, it's kind of like a mini Book of Mormon in a way.
It really is.
Yeah. It's cool.
Make a great movie in itself. I mean, the Book of Ether. I think there was actually talk about that at one time. I wish they would make that. That would be awesome. Yeah. Piggyback off of what you were saying about the vision or the things that so what had happened was the Lord had showed the brother of Jared this amazing vision from the very beginning of time to the very end of time. Right. Basically everything. He pretty much just said, "You got enough faith, dude. I'm gonna show you pretty much all of it. I mean, you're here. I can't withhold it from you. I'm gonna give it all to you." Which also to me shows that the Lord wants to give us everything. He wants us to know all things. Right. He wants us to have all things. It's us that stops it sometimes. But anyway, most of the time, all the time, really. So we know that it was sealed up. That was the portion of the Book of Mormon that was sealed up. Part of it was that vision for the brother of Jared. And it is not to come forth. I think it was Bruce R. McConkie. He said during the millennium, the sealed portion of the Book of Mormon when the sealed portion is translated of the Book of Mormon, it will give an account of life of the premortal existence, of the creation of all things, of the fall and the atonement and the second coming, of temple ordinances in their fullness, of the ministry and mission of translated beings, of life in the spirit world, in both paradise and hell, of all the kingdoms of glory to be inhabited by resurrected beings, and many such like things. As of now, the world is not ready to receive these truths. So he's saying that there's a lot of deep stuff that's going to be in there that can be revealed, that was given to the brother of Jared, and it just can't be done right now. And it says basically in the millenniums when it will get pretty much released, because that's about the only time we'll be all good enough to handle it, I guess. I don't know. But so very interesting there. There's a lot of great things that are sealed up, and I'm looking forward to those things that are coming forth. But, I got to deal with what I got now. Do I look at this enough? Am I reading what I've got already? Do I go to the temple enough already? Do I go to church enough? Do I take on callings? Do I help others and minister to others like I should before I say, "Oh, I want all this other knowledge"? It's not going to do me any good.
And that's really what it comes down to is we limit ourselves, and we're always a lot more intrigued with the mysteries, with what we can't have and can't reach when what we need is sitting right here in front of us.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's fun to ponder the science or the cool historical facts, but in reality, faith is what I need to conquer.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah,
repenting.
Yep.
And then chapter 5 is basically Moroni talking to Joseph Smith, and he in verse 2 he talks about the 8 witnesses. It pretty much it talks about those who shall assist to bring forth this work, and that's pretty much the 8 witnesses. And in verse 3 it's the 3 witnesses, which was, we know, Martin Harris, David Whitmer, and Oliver Cowdery, and they all actually. I mean, what was you going to say?
No, I would say which is, I mean, if you really think about it, Moroni, he says he takes this chapter or this section and he speaks specifically to the person that's going to be translating this. That's cool. Intense.
That's pretty intense, man. And every one of these guys, Andrew knows this history better than anybody.
Not according to the trivia challenge we did.
Not according to that. I actually piggybacked off of 2 of those. Go back and watch that episode. But I piggybacked off of 2 of his answers, and it helped me out. But I guessed right on one. That was the one I won with. So it did not show my intelligence by no means, just my craftiness. But it says basically that those 3 people, as Andrew could tell you better than I could, they all got excommunicated, right? So those 3 witnesses were excommunicated.
Oliver came back.
That's right. Oliver came back. Yeah. But they did all 3 get excommunicated. And were disenfranchised. They distanced themselves from the church. Yeah, distance.
Were they excommunicated, or did they just leave the church?
I think they excommunicated. Was that not right?
Yeah. So Oliver ended up. Right there in Kingsville. Yeah. Oliver ended up going back after Joseph died. He wasn't in Nauvoo or nothing. Came back and said, "Hey, I don't want no leadership. Don't want no limelight. But everything, you got to think, it was him and Joseph that was around the priesthood restoration, everything.
That's right.
I mean, a lot of it.
Yeah.
And anyway, long story short, he went to there in Council Bluff, Iowa, Kingsville, and said, "Hey, I just want my membership.
Yeah.
That's all I want, because I know this is the true restored
Yeah,
church.
yeah, he came back. David
Yeah.
David Whitmer never denied Oliver Cowdery.
None of them
Mark
never
Harrison,
denied
None of
it.
them never denied that they saw
Yeah.
the plates and that it was real,
Mark.
which gives it more validity to me. They had every reason to go, yeah, that church, I'm done with that church. All that was false. This was dumb. This was, all they basically left the church for was because of leadership quarrels. They had problems with leadership. They didn't, and so they were. It says that all three were excommunicated. And Dallin H. Oaks had talked a little bit about that. But anyway, it just gives a lot of validity to the to this, and that it was very obviously the Book of Mormon is true. They wouldn't have said it was unless it was, And the very last thing is in verse 6. It says, "And now, if I have no authority for these things, judge ye, for ye shall know that I have authority when ye shall see me, and we shall stand before God at the last day. Amen." Moroni is pretty much saying, "Go ahead and make your judgment." And but you'll know as I was telling you the truth when you see me in the last day. That's pretty much what he's saying.
Boom.
He's like, hey, this is true, and you'll know it. Whether you know it now or you want to know it now, you're gonna know it later.
You're gonna know it.
That's right.
So that's pretty cool.
Well, that's a great place to end. So, for those of you out there reading and studying the Book of Mormon, you know it. You know what you're reading,
and keep on reading.
Keep on reading.
Hey, until next time, y'all keep on striving.